Good evening. The April 20th Board of Education meeting is now in session. Please rise for the invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance, stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. The pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2.03 is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
All those in favor? Motion passes 900. Item 2.04, establish agenda order, and the agenda will stand as published. Item 2.05 are recognitions for the month of Military Child.
April is the month of the Military Child, and we are pleased to recognize partnerships that have helped thousands of military children. With us this evening are Colonel Brian Foley, Garrison Commander, Fort Meade; Lieutenant D'Artagnan Santana, Security Division Officer, Naval Support Activity, Annapolis; and Commander, Senior Chief Leon Seeley of Naval Support Activity, Annapolis. Also with us is Bates Middle School student Grace Murnane. Grace, whose father is Commander Michael Murnane, a battalion officer on the Commandant Staff of the United States Naval Academy. It is important to recognize that military-connected children are a unique population with unique needs and challenges. To address those challenges, we are privileged to work with school liaisons from both the Army and the Navy as we seek to support these students. 7 of our high schools have received training in creating a welcoming environment for our highly mobile military students. Those are Annapolis, Meade, Severna Park, Broadneck, Arundel, South River, and Old Mill high schools. Mids for Kids program connects scores of students with midshipmen, providing mentors and role models. Just yesterday, Seven River Middle School was part of a webinar series sponsored by the Military Child Education Coalition, in which the school's efforts at welcoming military-connected students was highlighted. Those are just a few of the things that we're doing. With that, I'd like to invite Grace to come forward, followed by Command Senior Chief Seeley and Colonel Foley. After their remarks, we're going to take a picture with the board. Welcome.
Good evening, Board President Korbalek, Board of Education members, and Superintendent Dr. Arlotto. My name is Gracie Murnane, and thank you for the opportunity to come here and represent military kids. I go to Bates Middle School, and I'm in the 7th grade creative writing program, and I wrote a poem to represent military kids. So here it is. It's your home for 3 years, and then suddenly it's 2. It's saying goodbye and shedding tears to a home that grew on you. It's meeting new people and friends and listing where you're from. It's never just one home in the end. In fact, the list goes on. It's being able to visit places others envision in dreams. It's also, in some cases, claiming you visited a place you never did get to see. It's making spaceships out of a box your family uses to pack. It's navigating through the stocks of things you never bothered to unpack. It's a million different things all at the same time. It's my life. It's all of ours. It's having parents who teach you to be respectful and kind and make you who you are. It's the life of a military kid, and it's normal and the same as yours, but it's so much more than moving again and again. No, it's having parents who save the world. Thank you.
Great poem, Gracie. Good evening. I'm Command Senior Chief Leon Seeley from NSA Annapolis. Just a few words I would like to say. I would like to thank the Anne Arundel County Public Schools for the proclamation in support of the Month of the Military Child, as well as fulfilling the Interstate Compact on education opportunities for military children in all of our schools. I would also like to thank the school board and the school liaison officers for all they do for our military children. As a military parent, it is comforting to know our schools recognize and have received training regarding the unique challenges that our military children face as they move from state to state or country to country, or as moms and dads leave for 6 to 12 month deployments. There is a significant change in the home, in the children when parents leave them to serve the nation. There is also a significant change in the home life when the parent returns to the family, as both the service member and the family have had to readjust. Life goes on for all parties during deployments, and when families come back together, everyone is a little bit different. Children are bigger, may be in a different grade. Mom or dad have been deployed and have not had the immediate responsibility of raising their children on a day-to-day basis. And so they have to integrate themselves back into a family that has changed together, but without them. That little bit of independence that everyone has grown more accustomed to during their time apart is hard to turn back. When a family moves, the children leave behind friends and show up at their new destination in a new school, new house, new climate, maybe even a new culture, and all of it is unfamiliar. All of these major life events are stressful and may be a catalyst for military children to react differently than they normally would. So I urge the continued teamwork of the school board and school liaison officers to continue to support each other and work together to support our military children. Before I close, I know we have a couple of military families here. If you can stand up, and I would like to say thank you for everything that you do to help our service members and to continue on. Thank you.
Well said, well said. So Superintendent Arlotto, again, thank you to the board, also to all the members' family who are here. Again, I just want to thank you for helping us recognize April as the month of the military child. On behalf of the entire Team Meade community, on behalf of our entire military, I want to thank each and every one of you for partnering with us. I couldn't state the challenges better than she just expressed in her poem of being a military child. Enduring routine moves over the course of your lifetime growing up, moving through school, and enduring long periods where one, or in some cases, even both of your parents being gone for long periods of time. So the understanding, the caring that each and every one of the educators in this county dedicates themselves towards assisting the military children in working through these challenges is incredibly appreciated. We know that the future of our nation rests in the hands of our children, and we know that our children rest in your hands, and therefore the future of our nation rests in the hands of each and every one of you. I want to personally thank the educators, all of you that are here this evening, for the wonderful jobs that you do, indeed, holding the future of our nation in your hands. There's no more important profession, in my opinion, than that of being an educator for the future of our nation. So I thank each and every one of you again on behalf of all who serve. Thank you. Thanks, George.
Who's in charge?
I'm waiting for everybody to get settled so I can jump in.
That's right. Go ahead. Do your thing.
Military nominees. She's not dressed like it. All of this. Oh, just stuff. Okay. Everybody looks good. Be sure to see everybody in there. Big smile. Say two more. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item 2.06 are school and community highlights. Mrs. Birch.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to, and I'll probably be the first person to mention something about this, but say that last week, I guess it was, or a week and a half ago now, many members of the board had an opportunity to go to the National School Board Association conference, where just like we encourage our teachers and our staff to do professional development, we also need to learn what the latest and greatest is in school board issues. So I had a fantastic time learning I got to go on a site visit to the city of Cambridge, to their school system, which, if you don't know, Cambridge is where both Harvard and MIT are located. So a very interesting school district where half of the children are in poverty and half of the children are fairly well off. So had fabulous ideas from them, went to quite a few workshops on everything from curriculum, the unexploited strategy for closing the achievement gap and improving instruction for all learners, to board members leading courageous conversations about race and equity in your district, to issues of what legal issues there are to deal with newcomers to the country. So just a variety of things that we were able to learn about, and it definitely was a wonderful opportunity, and I'm grateful that I got to do it.
Mr. Horskey.
Thank you. So this past Friday, April 15th, the Chesapeake Regional Associations of Student Councils held the student board member elections at South River High School. Representatives of our middle and high schools met at South River to meet and listen to our top 3 finalists for this position. It is an honor to announce that Carolyn Williams of Glen Burnie High School will take my seat this July for the 2017-18 school year. Carolyn, even though I couldn't attend the election this past Friday, I know the students of this county are humbled to have you as their student board member and that you will accurately represent them on this board this coming fall.
Ms. Sasso.
It was basically part of the elementary school consortium, which was part of the elementary school consortium of the Broadneck Peninsula. There were all the elementary schools together. Being Hispanic, I was very much interested in what is being done for the community. And I must say there were over 80 parents that attended, and it was a very well attended, organized, and represented community of the Hispanic community. I was really, really impressed with all of the activities that they had. At the same time, on April 14th, there was the inauguration of the Rolling Knoll School. And I must say that the children really did praise their school. Unbelievable how pleased they were and how much they recognized the efforts that went into the building of the new school. And the principal for the day, which was a gentleman by the name of Quinn, hopefully in the future he will be a principal because he was really outstanding. And thank you.
Mrs. Pickard.
Today I had the distinct pleasure of being at Overlook Elementary with Comptroller Francho, who in 2010 created the Silver Hammer Award to ensure that Maryland recognizes schools demonstrating fiscal prudence through superior school facility maintenance. Every year, Comptroller Francho awards a school in each of our counties with this award, and Overlook took the prize today for Anne Arundel County. Principal Amanda Salvaron and her fantastic team, her facility chief, Sean Dubiel, and the 3 custodians, I'm going to butcher these names, Dana Wagenhofer, Debbie Batang, and Jeremy Ryan. This was a fantastic opportunity for the students, as you can see behind me. Each class got up individually with homemade cards for the custodians. The school is absolutely pristine. It's beautiful. It was renovated in 2011 to the tune of $17 million. And Comptroller Francho certainly recognized that that school is doing its part to maintain that building. It was a great celebration today. I think the custodians were a bit surprised, but it was really lovely, and the students were amazing. Earlier in I guess last week, Julie Hummer and I attended an event with the Chamber of Commerce Education Forum where we had already heard some of this information before from the Community Foundation regarding their needs assessment of poverty amongst plenty, and the Chamber was meeting particularly to talk about disconnected youth. I think back in November when I first heard the Community Foundation's presentation, it was stunning to learn the details of the pockets of poverty, the different issues facing this county. But it was really encouraging to see the business community last week pulling together to look to break down some barriers and solve some of the most pressing issues in the county. I love the fact that AACPS is part of that team. I also was in Boston, but I won't go into all that with everybody else. Thanks.
Mrs. Hummer.
Yes, I also went to the Rolling Nose ribbon cutting. What a beautiful building. So much light. It's gorgeous. It's just a lovely addition to our school system. And Ms. Pickard and I also attended the Family Involvement Conference last week at the church at Severn Run. And hats off to Teresa Tudor and her team. It was a fabulous event. It's a great speaker, and there were about 200 parents from all over the county there. And it was just a great outreach event. And as a parent, very beneficial information that hopefully I will put to use. Within the county, one of the great things we offer are some co-curricular clubs and things after school, and one of those is the 24 challenge competition. And I went last week to the 5th grade county 24 challenge competition, and if you ever want to be humbled about your math ability, you just need to watch these little guys do the 24 challenge. I mean, they put the card down, and before my brain has even registered the numbers, they have the answer. It's really amazing. And I'm going to give a personal shout out because the 5th grade champion was Jay Patel from my home school, Brockbridge Elementary, and this was the 2nd time he won. He won in 3rd grade, had a little slip and only came in 2nd in 4th grade, but he brought it back home for 5th grade. So hats off to Jay. And I know 4th grade competition was this week, and I believe 3rd grade is next week. But it's really great fun to see that, and as I said, very humbling. Yesterday I attended the Wellness Council here with the county and heard just a great story. Last week, one of the deputy superintendents from the USDA came and visited to take a look and hear about the wellness programs here in Anne Arundel County, and was so impressed that she's taking many of our activities and she's going to go back and share them with other school systems around the country because she said AACPS is doing it right. And so that was great to hear. And she was particularly impressed she went to Germantown Elementary, and they had 5th graders do a Socratic discussion about healthy living, and blew her socks off with how great these kids were doing their in-depth discussion. So just a great way that we tie in the great things academics were doing in the school along with healthy living. I also went to Boston, and when I was in Boston, a lot of the sessions I went to were regarding equity in our schools and closing some of the gaps and some things like that. And one of the sessions I went to was called High-Performing Schools, High Poverty, High-Performing Schools, because I wanted to see what some of these high-performing, high-poverty schools had in common. And I was encouraged to see that we're doing many of the things that are there. And I think some things that brought that out yesterday in the paper, the most challenging high schools in America list came out, and for the top 50 schools in our region, 6 of our high schools are in the top 50 most challenging schools in the region, and that's going the entire DC area. But even more impressive, Annapolis High School is in that top, what numbers? I don't have it in front of me. Annapolis is number 34, and in the top 50, they have the third highest percentage of students who in poverty of any of the schools, and that's a huge testament to our county and to the folks at Annapolis High School. And so just hats off, we're doing it. So congratulations to all of those schools.
Mrs. Nally.
Well, I also attended Rolling Knolls, and I want to pay a little shout out to the former principal, Jane Taylor, a friend of mine. We were principals together, and Jane gave a very moving speech, talk with what led up to and everything they went through, the community working together to get this new school. So a shout out to Jane. She was recognized as just had been a real wonderful principal, so I thank her for coming back for that event. I also was invited to speak, thank Laura Gardner, with the International Parent Group. I met about maybe 15 of the most interesting parents from all over the world, parents of our students, and they are in this parent group to learn more about Anne Arundel County Public Schools. They wanted to meet with a board member, and we spoke with them about the board, and I also took questions, wonderful questions from them, and listened to their tributes and concerns about the things they have faced and how they've worked through it. So it was a wonderful opportunity. Again, thank you, Laura Gardner, who leads that group, the International Parent Group. I also am on the Maryland Hall Board of Education. Maria Sasso is a board representative. Both of us attended the Maryland Hall board meeting yesterday, encouraging you to really look at what's going on at Maryland Hall. There are so many opportunities for students and for adults. Please look it up. The website is great. There are also many scholarships for students for after-school activities. There are many available. So really and truly, I encourage you to go to Maryland Hall, attend their concert series, attend the different functions that they have, because they are a real gem in our area. Thank you.
Dr. Arlato.
Yes. Earned awards from the Maryland School Psychologists Association recently. Tammy Bailey, who's a school social worker at Glen Burnie High School, was named Educator of the Year by the association. And our very own Nick Silvestri, a school psychologist stationed here in central office, earned the Advocacy Award by the association. So we're very proud of the two of them.
I'd just like to add my shout out for Rolling Knolls Elementary School's ribbon cutting. I got to be escorted by a pre-K gentleman named Jesse, and he was just really special that day to take me around and introduce me to the crowd. I also got to attend the 13th annual Avid Expo on Wednesday, I believe, last week, and I spent some time talking to some of the high school Avid programs, hearing about all the students and how far they had come through Avid and all the scholarships and acceptance letters they were debating right now before college. It was just really inspirational to talk with them. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that Mrs. Hummer and I had the chance to go to County Executive Shoes Town Hall last night in Crofton, and it was just really awesome to see a number of teachers and parents there advocating for the school system and students too. Item 2.07 is the CRASC report.
Good evening, President Korbelak, Dr. Arlato, board members, and friends. My name is Michael Moore. I am a junior at Severna Park High School. I am the second vice president of the Chesapeake Regional Association of Student Councils. It has been a busy couple of weeks, so let's get things off to a really positive start. Last Friday, CRASC hosted our annual election of the student member on the Board of Education, as we celebrated the 40th year of our full voting student board member. Yikes. While this is always an exciting event, recent press attention and controversy over board nominations amped things up, making it a very long day for all of us. Thank you, Mr. Gilland, for joining us and giving the greatest pep talk ever. And it was just amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you to South River High School for hosting the event and providing IT support for the voting process. Our 3 candidates are all outstanding leaders and ran impressive campaigns. Ultimately, the students of Anne Arundel County voted to elect a student whose name is sent to the Governor, Larry Hogan, for appointment. Now, I only wish Jacob had put a spoiler warning before he announced who the nominee was, but I will echo that thought. So, our next student member on the Board of Education will be Ms. Carolyn Williams. I have no doubt she will represent the students effectively and fairly. And once again, thank you for allowing us to represent the students of Anne Arundel County.
Michael, to be fair, last year Aisha did the same thing to me.
Okay.
Because I was second vice president, so I was supposed to announce myself.
All right, we got to keep the tradition rolling. I understand. And here's Carolyn.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Williams, and I am the 2016 nominee for the student member on the Board of Education, as we all know now. It's amazing to be able to say that and be proud of what this position holds. I'm so honored to be selected, and I am fully prepared to take on the responsibility. The last time I addressed this dais, I was here advocating for teacher compensation. That was so exciting and empowering to speak the truth on behalf of others. As a student leader, I know that I have a responsibility to those who are not heard, to champion the voice of my generation and to be an agent of change in my community. That's why I'm so pleased to see the faces of students here tonight. We've already heard from one, and I'm so glad that we're going to be able to hear from many others. I know that they have joined us to express some serious emotions. They are coming here in pain and anger. Our community has been through a difficult week, and we are still working through it. That's why I am so happy to see my peers here tonight to bring voice on the issue. I ran on a platform of building and bridging relationships and healing wounds, and it is clear that this is needed now more than ever. This is the place and the time to be heard, and everyone is listening. And after you finish here, students, I strongly encourage you to come speak with the Chesapeake Regional Association of Student Councils. As the organization of students, we are ready to move forward and transcend the issue of bias ideologies and social inequity that is causing so much pain and division in our community and among our students. I am interested to hear what everyone has to say. I am so excited to begin to work with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. We're excited too. Item 2.08 is the CCAC report.
Good evening, Dr. Arlotto, President Corbelak, and members of the board. My name is Colleen Caswell, and I'm the chair of your Anne Arundel County Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee. And with me here tonight is Sarah Davis, our treasurer. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to give you an update on our strategic initiatives and our accomplishments for this school year. One of our areas of focus has been inclusion and least restrictive environment. One of our initiatives and highlighted accomplishments was focusing on improving transportation outcomes. We've engaged with the Director of Special Education and the Department of Transportation to discuss issues with the length of time special needs students are on buses. We've been approached by parents of children with special needs who attend schools that are approximately 20 minutes from their home, and yet they have a bus ride of about an hour and a half in some cases or more. And we have some children that are on buses 3 to 4 hours per day. These are children that are attending, in some cases, non-public schools that are further away, but those bus rides are really hard, difficult and heavy burden for some of our most vulnerable students and their families. Our understanding is the biggest problem is a lack of equipment, but scheduling challenges are an additional issue. We strongly recommend Anne Arundel County Public Schools look at approving scheduling and routing to reduce the length of these bus rides, and additionally request planning for future transportation purchases to improve this. Additionally, our members have raised a concern about disparity in providing after-school transportation for STEM-related and other extracurricular activities, but not providing after-school transportation for special education students who really need extra assistance after school. We are requesting the board look closer at this issue and look for ways to reduce or remove this disparity by providing transportation for students who need extra help after school. CCAC has engaged with the Department of Special Education about specialized and differentiated instruction. This topic was presented at one of our meetings by the director and her staff. It resulted in great dialogue with the committee and many parents who attended. The director shared her staffing plan for this year, as well as her plans for increasing and improving differentiated and specialized instruction. We believe this plan has the potential to be extremely impactful for all students, but it really needs strong support from the board to ensure full implementation. We brought parent concerns related to LRE to the director and had meaningful discussions, and in some cases were able to obtain additional assistance for parents from county resources. However, our understanding is that elementary schools are struggling to service students across 7 grades, pre-K through 5, with sometimes only 2 special ed teachers. And this is impacting the ability of our school system to sufficiently provide LRE for students as defined in their IEPs. For example, some schools are placing most or all of their students within a grade with IEPs or 504 plans into one general ed classroom in order to handle the caseload with insufficient staff, rather than spreading those students across 2 or more classes as would normally be expected. Our schools need the additional staff to ensure that our school system can remain compliant with IEP requirements and provide a free and appropriate education and environment for all students. Another area we focused on was improving customer service. We held our 3rd annual CCAC Resource Fair this fall and once again had great turnout. We are now in the beginning stages of planning for next year's Resource Fair with the goal of firming up our date and location early and in time for it to be included with the Anne Arundel County Schools back-to-school information on the back-to-school nights. We focused our general meetings on having speaker topics this year, and we coordinated with the director to have speakers on topics important to our parents and related to our initiatives. And those topics were very well received and resulted in a lot of great dialogue. We provided feedback to the director on some specific updates requested for the Anne Arundel County Public Schools website. We know that the website in general has some outdated content, and we frequently encounter broken links. And some of the subsites for specific schools have had problems with downtime or degraded functionality for extended periods of time. The director advised us that the website is slated for a major redesign, and we agree this is much needed, but wonder what could be done to reduce the number and length of time that links or functionality remains broken on the site. And we suggest considering a way to perhaps enable parents to submit problem reports about specific links or broken content. We also focused on improving parent participation. This year, we launched a Facebook page and group, and this has generated a lot of participation in CCAC and in discussing special ed. We used a web-based survey tool to administer an Anne Arundel County CCAC Special Education Parent Survey back in June. Our parent survey resulted in 952 completed responses and 324 written comments, some discussing issues and other providing positive feedback. Our survey was different from the MSDE special ed survey in that our questions were much more focused on our school system and specific to us. So we provided the detailed responses and all the data to the director. She thought it was very valuable. She was able to share that feedback with her staff and in some cases provide some specific positive feedback to specific schools, which they really appreciated. We're beginning our plans for another survey. And finally, we've been leveraging our website and web meeting technology, which we hope to expand next year. While our speaker topics and the use of technology has increased participation, and we've been tracking our metrics this year, it's still a challenge to reach all parents. We'd like better ways to reach all parents and families within Anne Arundel County Public Schools who have students with special needs. We believe one of our biggest obstacles limiting parent participation is the ability to reach out to all those parents. We believe that many parents still are not aware of CCAC, and they also are not aware of all of the school system resources that may be available to them. And we are partnering with the Director of Special Education and other stakeholders to look for ways to improve this. Finally, we've also been focusing on getting more parents involved in educating and advocating for the education budget. We are hoping to have a good turnout at the County Council budget hearings in May. This concludes our report and our highlights this year. We welcome you to participate in our upcoming meetings or events. We normally meet on the second Thursday of the month here. Our dates for May and June are going to shift a little bit due to some conflicts. You can always find us on the web at aaccac.org, and as I mentioned, our new Facebook group, AACCAC. Thank you again.
Thank you. Mrs. Nally?
I guess I'm thinking as a principal and ran a lot of IEP meetings, what's the problem if you're having that difficulty of having a small handout that when parents come into IEP meetings, giving that out and having it in, you know, that to me is very simple, doesn't cost a lot of money. And
we actually already do that. I didn't, you do have a copy of my written testimony.
Okay.
I didn't say everything, but we do have materials. And the Director of Special Education this year provided IEP customer service baskets to all of the schools.
Oh, good.
So the department developed some materials, and we provided our materials as well. And we've been actually checking in with most of the schools to make sure they've received everything. In some schools, they mostly haven't. Some have been missing, so we provided extra. So, and our members also are visiting schools and dropping off packets to them. The director's been giving packets of our information in some of her staffing meetings as well.
Good.
And I actually have a stack on the table over there.
But we still are having some difficulty with that last step of them being delivered to parents, because from the feedback we get from CCAC member participants, they don't regularly receive them in many cases at the meetings. There's still that last piece of delivery that we're working on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks.
Item 2.09 is the PTA report.
Hello. Good evening, President Korbelak, Vice President Nally, members of the board, and Dr. Arlotto. Normally this would be given by Pam Bukowski. My name is Angelica Carroll. I'm the first Vice President of the Anne Arundel County Councils of PTAs. In April, we celebrated our Founders Day with many of you, our annual celebration to honor the PTA volunteers. We were pleased to have Dr. Arlotto and Teresa Burge bring greetings from Anne Arundel County Public Schools and from the Board of Ed, respectively, along with Elizabeth Light, who shared greetings from Maryland PTA as State President. Thank you also to members of Dr. Arlotto's staff and board members who attended. 29 PTAs were well represented, and with a total attendance of about 180 that evening. The theme was celebration and gratitude to all of our extraordinary PTA volunteers. During the program portion of the evening, Christy Batista of Marley Elementary was honored as Outstanding PTA Principal. Christine Krieger of Odington Elementary was honored as Outstanding PTA Teacher, and Shar Hudson of Monarch Academy as Outstanding PTA Support Staff. Several volunteers were nominated by their schools to receive School PTA Outstanding Volunteer Awards. The following were honored. Annapolis High School had Janet Norman, who's somewhere behind me. Bates Middle School had Kira Glitz. Belvedere Elementary had Nicole Treeman. Durham Elementary had Greer Simpson. Lakeshore Elementary had Jim Steedman. Odington Elementary had Pastor Carissa Serber. Pasadena Elementary had Melanie Harris. Ridgeway Elementary had Kathy Hayes. Soley Elementary had Jennifer Bossum. And Walter Mills Parole had Jolyn Cook. Our silent auction, as always, but especially this year, was a hit. Through the hard work of Beverly Madden and Amy Holloway, and of course our precious Bob, even though he didn't sing, as I remember distinctly. Through the generosity of our guests who placed bids, we were able to raise over $1,800 for our scholarship fund. During the evening, we also shared that the Kenneth Lawson Education Scholarship had been awarded to Christine Swartz of Severna Park High School, and the Phoebe Apperson Hurst General Scholarship has been awarded to Bailey Clark of Northeast High School. The School Board Nominating Commission submitted the names of 5 candidates for the District 33 representative to the school board after the second round of interviews on March 28th. On Tuesday, March 29th, Eric Granum was selected by Governor Hogan and appointed to the District 33 seat as of July 1st. Congratulations to Mr. Granum, proud parent of a successful kindergarten student at Davidson Elementary. We would also like to offer congratulations to Carolyn Williams, a junior at Glen Burnie High School, recently elected by members of the Chesapeake Regional Association of Student Councils. Today to be the 2016-17 student member of the Anne Arundel County Board of Education. Congratulations. PTA has been proud to be a voice of the School Board Nominating Commission. We look forward to the opportunities to serve beginning June 1st, 2016, as part of a newly constructed commission. At that time, we'll be entitled to 2 seats on the commission. We look positively on the new legislation, which has changed the composition of the commission to reflect greater opportunity for parental involvement and representation to reflect more of the diversity of Anne Arundel County. As council, we continue to move forward with many activities. We have informed our parents of the town hall meetings scheduled by County Executive Shue, as well as the upcoming county council budget hearing meetings. All are encouraged to attend one of the meetings to request, at the minimum, full funding of the superintendent's budget. Our next general membership meeting will be held May 16th. Vendors will be attending and will give presentations to interested PTA parents about fundraising. But we all have to get done. At that time, we will also be having elections for our AACC PTA officers, as well as requesting membership approval by our council bylaws. And fulfilling our mission, AACC PTA joins the AACPS community. Can't say that too fast. Engage, empower, and educate to promote equality and accelerated student achievement, to hold true that all children are capable of success, no exceptions. As always, PTA thanks you for your many opportunities to speak for every child, one voice.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the public comment portion of the meeting. Anyone wishing to speak on an item not on today's agenda may offer testimony during this public comment portion of the meeting. Speakers will be allotted 3 minutes each, and the board asks that comments remain civil and appropriate for the various audiences that may be watching or viewing the meeting. Student-specific and personnel matters are confidential and cannot be discussed in this forum. This time is intended for speakers to voice their opinion and not necessarily as a question and answer period. Speakers may pose questions, but answers will be counted toward the 3-minute allotment. For the record, please give your name before speaking, and handouts should be given to the board assistant. I have about 12 completed cards, so I will call up the first group to come forward. I have Robert Silkworth, Sebastian Serrano, Cameron Lake, and Emily Mosier, Reginald Carter, and Mayana Scott.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, President Korbelak, Dr. Arlotta, distinguished board members. For the record, my name is Robert Silkworth, and I am chairperson of the High School Concerns Committee. I'm here monthly, and to give you some information about our previous meeting. At our recent meeting, we did discuss many items such as the status of upgraded grading, proposed regulations, SLOs, the status of WTR, some actual climate concerns some schools had about some climate in their building. But the most important thing that we discussed is will be my focus this evening, and that is on May the 9th at North County High School and on May the 12th at Annapolis High School, there will be hearings before the County Council about next year's budget. We just wanted to let you know that we clearly understand the need to send a message to the County Council to fund our budget fully for our kids. I can assure you that at North County we will have many educators and many people in attendance, and we will clearly send the message about the importance of funding this budget. This is really essential, if in fact not critical. Anything and everything must be done at all levels by all stakeholders to help us keep the great teachers that we now have, and so that some of the great programs that you all recently talked about can continue. We invite all of those listening to come join with us on the 9th of May at North County and the 12th of May at Annapolis High School. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. One final thing. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, the 11th of May, 2016. You are all invited. Of course, as always, there will be refreshments. And kudos. I would like to take this opportunity also to congratulate Carolyn Williams of Glen Burnie High School. I've been quoted over the past as having said that my buddy up there, Terry Gilliland, was one of the best student board of ed members that I've ever seen. But you know what, Jacob, you have really given him a run for his money. And you're in the running, sir, but I have to tell you, you guys know that I'm all about relationships, the building of them, the maintaining of them. What did she say? Carolyn, where are you, Carolyn? Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sebastian Serrano. I teach AP Physics and ESOL, Matter and Energy at Annapolis High School. You know, I've been talking to a few folks about what my situation looks like as a young teacher. I'm 24 years old. Some of my ESOL students are convinced I'm 35. They're convinced that I have 2 children. I have none. I don't know where they're getting that from. But as a young teacher, I'm looking at this situation, and I do see a lot of hope from what my dream was. My dream in undergrad was to become a teacher who would work in an area that needed me, in an area where I could feel safe. And there's a lot of support here, and there are good places to live. I have that. And I'm at a school where I feel that I contribute a lot of value. Now, you hear plenty of numbers thrown around about how we're upset about salary and all the other benefits, and I think those feelings are very legitimate, and I share them as well. I'm starting to become quoted in some of these newspaper articles now. But, you know, with a lot of these issues coming up, we're going to hear about some of them tonight, as well as other issues such as my ESOL students, all the fear that they expressed in early January when the immigration raids were taking place, and they felt that they could be put into a category that they didn't deserve. I just want you to know this is where I want to be. This truly is where I want to be. But I need certain things to be protected, such as the $5,000 that I have lost from the cuts that have been made between last year and this year. And I can get into more detail privately if that's something that you want to do. But my main concern here is about the number of preps that each teacher has. We're all very dedicated and caring, but when I was a first-year teacher last year, I had 4 preps. And that took everything that I had and then some, because I'm also writing all my exams. And an AP Physics exam, if I'm going to make it effective and truly rigorous, that takes 4 hours to write from scratch. You know, maybe that's me being slow, but it was 4 hours for each one. Each retake was another 4 hours. This year I had 3 preps, and it felt like so much less, because some of them I got to do again, such as AP Physics and ESOL Matter and Energy. But with turnover, with all of the rising in population, there's a possibility that I might get 4 again, and I got to tell you, I'm nervous about it. I'm nervous that that amount of workload could come upon me again, especially when there's the possibility that other people within my department might only have 2 preps, depending on what they're doing. And I can tell you, I come from Wilmington, Massachusetts. In Wilmington's contract, and I've said it here before, it's within the contract that every teacher has to have 3 preps and the department chair has 2 preps before anyone can be given a 4th. And I'm hoping that there's an opportunity, whether it's TAC or the board or whoever needs to hear it, that this message gets out there that we must protect, put a cap on this workload in order to keep everybody here. I'm telling you, this is the dream, and I want to stay here, but I need that support for this to be a realistic dream as well.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Reginald Carter, and I am a student ambassador at North County High School. I am also a senior. I'm here to talk about the defamatory events that occurred at North County High School last week. In summary, a North County white student wrote an essay that received an A about intentions to get rid of the Negro or the African American race. The author of the essay went on to say blacks are diseased and should be sent to the Sahara Desert and be blown up. I want to say, as a student, I am disappointed in how we have yet to receive answers on our safety and how we are going to make things better within our school. I also want to say that administrative staff did not reach out to us. We had to reach out to them. Now, my first question on tonight is, would be why has the writer of the essay have not been suspended based on the Anne Arundel County Public School Board policy? The Board of Education policy defines biased behavior as a behavior offense committed against a person or property which is motivated by the offender's bias, a negative opinion or attitude towards a group of people based upon their race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, or ethnicity, national origin.
You're asking the question about a student suspension?
Yes.
Unfortunately, we can't reveal that information because it's a privacy issue.
Okay, so what information can we get on this student?
They can. They have up to 3 minutes. Yep.
I'm glad you're here. Delighted that all of you are here. So we can't talk about student discipline, whether it affected you or anybody else. And so I'm unable to talk about student discipline unless I'm talking to the parent of the student. And so that's unfortunately, I understand your frustration. You'd like to know, others would like to know, but it's not something that we can talk about.
Okay, what about our safety?
And what are the concerns about safety?
Our safety is, our concerns are if the student will come into the building and shoot us all up. What are you guys going to do about that? That's my question on tonight.
Well, I wasn't aware that there was a safety issue regarding this particular student. Right. Well, thank you. I'm going to talk with the student. Right. He's asking great questions and he's doing a fabulous job. Right. And so I wasn't aware that there was a safety issue regarding the student. That wasn't something that was reported to me. I'll certainly talk to staff. We've had staff there throughout the week talking with students and learning more about the administration and you all and your relationship with the administration and the other teachers. I wasn't aware that there was a safety issue regarding the student in question. That's the first I'm hearing of that.
Well, there is a safety issue, and we are afraid to enter into the building based on what that individual wrote in his essay.
Mayana.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mayana Scott. I am a senior at North County, and of course, I am here to address the essay of the student that wrote the essay at my school. April the 11th of 2016, it was brought to my attention that a student who attends my school, North County High, received an A on an assignment that an AP English teacher had assigned. The assignment was to make a modest proposal similar to famous author Jonathan Swift. In the assignment sheet, we were able to pick our own topics. I chose to write my assignment on poverty. I am here to speak my opinion and to also bring attention to the assignment. In the assignment, he begins to belittle us African Americans within the first couple of sentences. He goes to say, but also plagued by the disease of the Negro. He also goes to say that corralling said Negroes back to the Sahara Desert and using a high ordnance nuclear missile. And if you decide to read the essay, or if you have read the essay, you see that he goes on to continue to belittle us African Americans. It was brought to my attention that our principal, Julie Cares, knew about this letter Friday afternoon, April the 8th of 2016. She brought to my attention that she began to handle the situation that day. Tuesday, April the 12th of 2016, we did not see any actions being brought towards the situation. There has been multiple incidents less severe to our school that our parents and us students have been aware about instantly. Us African Americans who attend North County sent a group of adults to address the administration before us having to take it into our own hands to be heard. The meeting with those few adults did not go as planned. Myself, along with a bunch of other African American students, decided that we needed to speak about the situation, and yet I feel that the meeting did not get anywhere and we were not heard. Wednesday, April the 13th of 2016, the school did invite many spokespersonnel from the Board of Education to get our feedback on the situation and our feelings. I am very disappointed on how long it took for our school to process and handle the situation. I am very hurt by the words that Connor wrote, for the simple fact is that he has not had many of the struggles that I have faced in this world, not only with being African American, but also being an African American woman. I do not take the words that he says lightly, and I do not feel that satire can be a reason to justify that his actions were wrong. But I am not here to constantly dwell on the situation, but I have come up with ideas to help us move past it. I feel that African American history should be put in the curriculum. It has been put there, but it is not being forced. I also feel that there should be a parameter on what we are able to write. I'm not saying that the modest proposal essay should be taken out of the curriculum, but there should be a parameter. I am also saying that the bias-motivated policy should be enforced upon the student for the simple fact is that wrong is wrong and right is right, and satire is not a reason to justify that what he put in that essay was wrong. And I also, you know what, that's it.
Thank you.
Ladies, before you begin, can I ask a favor, gentlemen? Do you mind vacating those seats so these two young ladies can be out here in front in the camera and we can see their faces? Do you mind? Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies, do you mind moving over so we can really see you as you speak? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Emily Mosier, and I'm a junior at North County High School. Our comments are going to continue on what Mayana and Reggie have already presented, and sorry if I repeat anything. In Anne Arundel County Public Schools, students and staff alike work collaboratively in efforts to close the achievement gap. We're proposing the initiation of a long overdue movement to counter racism and promote a diverse educational realm transcendently across all grade levels, or known as the movement of Diversify ACPS. What we are proposing is to implement a student advisory board at North County High School, which we have already done. We've started, and the 4 of us are members on it. There's currently 14 members of multiple races, sexual orientations, and religions, so we have a wide variety of representation. We're hopefully going to spread having a student advisory board to other schools in the county and hopefully make it a county-wide thing with the support of the board. We want to see this implemented county-wide, and it would be a board where students would educate teachers in professional development days, and we've had meetings with Ms. Karras about possibly implementing a no-tolerance policy as far as slander being used in the school system. And I've said many times, you can't change anyone's opinion, but we can hold each other accountable to not say the things that we say that can hurt other people. And we want to educate teachers on how to better cater to the education of people from different backgrounds and ethnicities, and that way it can be more of a diverse and equal classroom experience.
My name is Cameron LeKay, and I'm a STEM junior at North County High School. After recent communications with the superintendent of Jennings School District, Missouri, which is located just outside of St. Louis, Missouri, we have been provided with many resources for taking steps towards dismantling racism within our county. Dr. Tiffany Anderson has served as the superintendent of Jennings School District for 4 consecutive years, where student success rates have risen from 57% in 2012 to 81% in 2015. Dr. Anderson has worked alongside her community to address various issues within it, inclusive of poverty, dismantling racism, teacher equity, barriers to students and families, volunteering, and parental involvement. Dr. Tiffany Anderson said regarding racism, the conversations need to take place in both black and white spaces. We must identify racism as a problem and talk about gaps in between, but address racism at its core and implement programs. As far as addressing the elementary level of education within the county, currently in ACPS, a student-initiated program called Volunteers at Title I Schools, or VT1S, exists within 2 elementary schools and 2 high schools. The program is focused on opening a plethora of opportunities for student success at the elementary level of education. VT1S essentially establishes ways for high school students to mentor and work with younger students during after-school clubs. Amongst participating students, the program also promotes diversity and learning about others who have different backgrounds than themselves. Dr. Anderson noted that it is important to address specific issues within our community and develop strategies on the basis of those issues. Some programs that are proven effective in Jennings, Missouri may not be as effective here in Anne Arundel County, which is why we need to listen to what our students and staff have to say about the present issues. Dr. Anderson is actively involved with the entire community, so the turnaround experienced in Jennings School District depends on every staff member, every student, and every parent within the district. Looking forward, we want to expand this movement to other schools, hopefully during the 2016 and 17 school year. By impacting students and teachers within the feeder school system of North County High School and eventually additional high schools, we hope to develop a community that is diversity
oriented and socially aware at all grade levels and push all students to reach their full potential. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out tonight to talk. The next 6 that I have are Carrie Guy, Dean Jackson, Don Jackson, Carl Snowden, Mackenzie Barnes, and Ashley Turner.
Good evening, everyone. That was very tough to follow. Those students were amazing. My name is Carrie Guy. I'm in the Maryland Air National Guard. My son is a military child. My son is also a student at North County High School. And I came to speak about the event that happened last week. Last week, my son informed me about the letter written at his school, the satire written by the student that paralleled Jonathan Swift's modest proposal. When he told me about the letter, the first thing I felt was fear. And then I was a little concerned about his well-being and his welfare. I went online to see what information was developed about the letter, and then I had a chance to read the letter, and then I was concerned about the protocol surrounding the event. After speaking with my son, I asked him about the things that were happening in his school and what the climate was like for him, being that he was in the school circulating around this event. The letter itself, to me, was anarchist in nature. It was hurtful, and it was lethal. And with lethal words like that, words tend to manifest, and I was concerned about the manifestation of what was written inside the essay and how it affected the student body. After doing more research online, I found there was more bigotry written by this student in regards to African Americans. After hearing the testimony of some of the students at North County High School, I also heard that there was a tweet saying that an armed weapon should be brought to the school in relationship to this essay. Because of that, my concern for my student, well, for my son, wasn't just for him, it's for the entire student body. And then I questioned, why hasn't the school or the county have a protocol where the parents and the community were informed of this event? After speaking with some of the students and drawing parallels, I thought about what would be the situation if this letter was written as a threat against the United States of an extremist group, or if it spoke about targeting a different set of demographics in our country. Would the protocol following this event be the same? The questions I have for the board and the school system is, what steps are we going to take for cultural awareness, not only in North County, but in Anne Arundel County, so something like this cannot happen again? It seems that in that environment, after speaking to some of the students and my son, that only a select group of students were targeted for remediation. In an event like this, a particular group doesn't need to be remediated. The whole student body needs to be made aware that there's unity, and that behavior and words and language like that is not tolerant anywhere, not only in North County, but anywhere those students exist. The remediation by the principal and the administration at North County, sorry, all right, that's all I have.
You can finish your sentence.
Okay, thank you. Overall, I guess my biggest concern is that I want the students in North County to understand that this group, if this incident affects everybody, and I want to know what the school is going to take action in order to fix that.
Thank you. I'm Deion Jackson.
Good evening, school board. My name is Deion Jackson. I have a student who also attends North County High School as well. In reference to the card that I gave, I wanted to know mainly what was the policy on hand for students using social media to actually ridicule other students. I know we talk about bullying and things of that magnitude, but the concern I have, although the letter was written, I know we talked about it, about Jonathan Swift and how the one student made reference to the African American community, and just basically ranting and saying how we should, be eradicated off the face of the earth, things of that magnitude. But using social media was, in a sense, to me, informing the masses. And I, being a parent, I found out about it maybe 4 days after it happened, which was, I think it was on Friday. It was, put out. And then when I found out maybe on a Tuesday. As a parent, as this gentleman here, I never even heard about it. I heard about it through Facebook. I was very appalled, very hurt. So as an African American, I was concerned about planned attacks. I was concerned about any preconceived acts, against not only African American students, but also students in North County. I wanted to go meet with the principal. She wouldn't want to meet with me. I ended up having to, I was turned away. And then after that, I did get a chance to come back, and I met with the vice principal. But the concern I had was the letter, in a sense that, no one took it for face value. And to me, I was like, whoa, somebody's talking about blowing people up and shooting people and, killing. It's a concern. And so I feel that, not only letters should apologize to the African American community, but also a policy should be in place to take part on this. To any student use social media. I mean, social media is big. I mean, these kids use Twitter and all kinds of stuff to get out. And steps should be in place not only for any assignments to go out like that, but hey, as a parent, if you're going to get an assignment like this, you need to be aware that, hey, they should sign some type of waiver, or better yet, something to go out to let a parent know that students are working on this type of aspect, and that we don't allow social media to be put in place, for that matter, to use to defame or ridicule or put down any race. Because just like the gentleman said, it could have been used to Hispanic, Japanese, Caucasian, anybody. And, my concern is I went to school, we all got to work together. And I just think that, social media should not be looked at as a way to rant and go out. Something should be there. Say, hey, if you use social media, there's consequences and validations that you cannot just jump and go through hoops and just think you're going to put this out there and allow it to just, hey, make it, make inroads to try to cause harm. And other than that, that's all I can say, because I do know that the gentleman did mention that there was other cases that the student did give out other defamatory comments to students as well. And this wasn't the first incident. My daughter's not in this class, but I've heard it, through other students having talked to them. And I only got to meet with the vice principal, but I commend the students that came, and I think it's great that they do our adversity board, and I thank you for your time as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Dawn Jackson.
Good evening, board. I'm going to read to you a email that was sent to the Councilman Peter Smith, also to the President Corblack, and also to Julie Cares, the principal at North County, concerning the same matter. It says, I am writing to express my concern for the controversy surrounding the essay that was written by a student attending North County. I am a parent of a 10th grader who may have to take this AP course next year. I believe the entire situation should have been handled much better. For instance, the teacher should have been reprimanded the student, or suggested that he submit something on a different topic besides racism. I understand that it was a satire. However, guidelines should have been put in place before the assignment was given. Also, the student took the time out to post this essay on social media blatantly for all to see. Like many others, such as my husband said, we were exposed to this nonsense on Facebook. As a concerned parent, my husband and I have discussed the matter with our student and events that has been happening each day. To my surprise, the school called in administrators from other schools to talk to our children. We, as the parents, were not properly informed. The letter from the principal came out on Tuesday night after schools were closed around 4 p.m. and I did not see it until 11 o'clock, which normally we would get a phone call or something, but I didn't see the letter until Tuesday night. By Wednesday, everything had escalated, and then it was a heightened situation at the school. I'm outraged and disgusted that this was not the way this has been handled. I believe the community at large should receive an apology from the school or from the student. My suggestion would be to remove this class from the curriculum or have that particular assignment removed from the coursework. I would like to offer this as a food for thought. Kind of piggyback with what the gentleman Carrie here was saying. What if the subject matter was still racism? Okay, that's the topic he chose, racism. But what if it was against homosexuals? Or maybe it was a satire about a student who had ADHD with an IEP. What about a child who has autism? struggling with our everyday life. Would that people or that community still be upset or offended? Yes, very much so. I'm very disappointed, but I'm hoping that the board will hear our views tonight. This is across Anne Arundel County, not a North County issue, but this is an Anne Arundel County issue. And I believe that the board should address this, and we as a community should be addressed, not segregated. We're trying to move forward from that. That was a long time ago. Thank you for listening to me.
Mrs. Jackson, I want to commend you for taking the time to write, because you were the only parent who took the time to write me until it made the national news.
Thank you. And I got the response that Friday when you sent
And
out
you
the
had
letter.
excellent
When the letter went out, it
suggestions.
was across the
Yep.
board, so I appreciate that. Thank you for your
Thank
response.
you. Mr. Stone?
I want to thank the board president and also the superintendent, first for your letter that you wrote, or your guest column to the Capitol, emphasizing your support for diversity. But I think at this point what we need to do is see that concept of diversity enforced, and there have been some suggestions tonight that the board may really want to give consideration to. Elevating this African American history course so that all students are required to take it would go a long way in terms of addressing systemic racism. Racism is a learned behavior, and in order to address that, it seems to me it's important that students learn why using certain language is not good. There was a letter sent out following the racially charged racist incidents at North County High School, as well as the disparaging remarks that were made about gays and lesbians. There's an old concept that goes like this: sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. That is not true. Words do hurt. They're more painful. They may leave a scar forever. And so the board, I think it's important that the board take this seriously. The president has agreed to meet with the Caucus of African American Leaders on May 10th at Wall H High School. In that meeting, students, parents, and others will have an opportunity to have a dialogue. It won't be a 3-minute limitation. People will have an opportunity to talk, to get questions asked and answered. I would invite all board members to join the president to be with us on May 10th, where we expect to dedicate the 2 hours that we're going to set aside to dealing with the issues of education, and specifically around systemic racism. Also, I want to make a recommendation. You have some ambassadors who work to address various problems in the school system. When ambassadors, my understanding is 4 of them, when ambassadors were first created, they were being paid $15 an hour, and now it's been reduced to $10 an hour. That suggests something, to me at least, that people don't understand the important roles that these ambassadors can play. I strongly encourage the board, out of almost $1 billion budget, certainly finding a way to raise from $10 to $15 money for these ambassadors is something that could easily be done by the board. And lastly, I want to thank the students. I had an opportunity to be at St. John's United Methodist Church, and these students spoke so well. They articulated the problems so well. I was very, very pleased and honored to be a part of them. And one of the things I said in a Facebook column, which I really mean, the students you heard from tonight are the future leaders. Some will be lawyers, some will be public servants, some will one day serve on this Board of Education. And so again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. I have Mackenzie and Ashley left.
I can go. Hi, I'm Ashley Turner. I'm a PTA mom from Van Brocklin. I'm in the school every day. I had a meeting with the principal and the guidance counselor and her teacher. I called the Board of Education like 100 times since Monday, so that's why I'm here today. Every day I'm in the school, I ask about my daughter, how she's doing in class. She's doing great, the teacher answered. She sent home paper where she get A on her math quizzes, different things. She even give out certificates where she's doing amazing. but she brings home straight E's. And she telling me she don't know, maybe she can fix it in the summertime. But I'm there every day. I even volunteer to help the school with every holiday, everything. I donate stuff. I'm there. When I come for lunch, I come eat lunch with my daughter every day because this is a new school for her. So we moved from Georgia to here, and I don't understand.
Would you do me a favor? Would you take some time and meet with Dr. Kubik right now, the Associate Superintendent that oversees the school, so she can get some very specific information from you? Would you do that for me?
Sure, definitely.
You can meet with Dr. Kubik. You guys can walk outside right out here in the lobby and chat. Would you do that for me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Ashley.
Thank you.
Mackenzie.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Barnes, and I am a sophomore, and I attend North County High School. As my fellow classmates said, and I will repeat some things that they have said, on Tuesday, April 12th, it was brought to my awareness and some other fellow classmates' awareness that a young male in the 11th grade wrote a racial letter. The young male got an A on the paper, and in the paper he stated, and I quote, "It is upon the basis of these facts that I propose a final solution. If I will, a short of all be all in solution to the Negro plague faced by America. The aforementioned solution would involve corralling said Negroes back to the Sahara Desert and using a high ordnance nuclear missile to wipe the cesspool of filth called a race from the earth. The level of racism of the letter is not only offensive, but it is also sad and ridiculous. Not only is the African American population in North County upset about the situation, but fellow classmates of other races are also upset. African Americans at North County have to deal with the racial jokes, the racial looks, and the racial discrimination on a daily basis. Me and other students and parents would like to know why has the writer of the essay not been suspended based on the AACPS board policy of biased behavior. We want to know why 8 students who acted in response of this vicious attack is denied the right to walk across the stage on their graduation day. Why would any student be punished for behavior in response to such outrageous and terroristic language against people of their own race when the AACPS brochure, a guide for parents of students who have been victims of biased behavior in Anne Arundel County Public Schools, acknowledges and lists the possible reactive behaviors of a victim of bias-motivated statement or behavior? We would like to know why school system administration will only speak with African American students and not use it as a teachable moment to the entire student body that AACPS has no tolerance for bias-motivated behavior in any form. This kind of response would have gone much further to support the victims of this behavior than protecting the perpetrator who was given 3 days out of school for fear he might be retaliated against since his behavior was premeditated. He not only posted the essay on social media the day before he turned in his assignment, but he copied and distributed copies to some of the students on the day he turned in his assignment. According to other students who were in his class, he turned in the assignment a week late and he still received an A. It appears his intent was to incite and poke a response. Where was the support to the victims and the counselors to them regarding their feelings? It appears as if the writer of the essay is not only rewarded, but is somewhat a celebrity to his peers who do not think he did anything wrong. On Thursday, April 14, 2016, an unknown assailant wrote "niggers" on the mirror in one of North County's boys' restrooms, 2 days after the racial essay went viral. North County say they are investigating the incident. This is just one of many incidents which African Americans endure at North County High School. We, the students of North County High School, demand that North County allow the 8 seniors to walk across the stage on their graduation day. We, the students and parents, demand perimeters on every assignment. We demand that there's a consequence for the writer of the essay. We, the students and parents, demand that the school officials of North County publicly address all students on the incident and the effects it can cause. We demand that the Board of Education properly handle the teacher who graded the assignment. We, the students and parents, demand that African American history is taught in the proper class. And we, the students and parents, demand at not only North County, but all AACP schools that this incident never happen again.
Well done.
Thank you to everybody.
Well done.
I don't have any additional completed cards. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board at this time?
Dr. Arlotto, President Korbelak, and members of the board, these amazing folks have prompted me to come up and echo some of their sentiments and tell you what it's like at Annapolis High School, where I am privileged to work with an amazing principal and amazing teachers and help them with their mission. We, at our school, as Ms. Korbelak knows, we're about 1/3 African American, 1/3 Hispanic, and 1/3 white. And it's because of some of the amazing dynamic young teachers that we have, is that we have an incredible climate of acceptance and you know, people are judged for who they are, not their ethnic background or, you know, where they came from. And a lot of that has to do with the incredible young dynamic teachers we have that reach out, like Mr. Serrano here, teaching the important math and physics and science classes, and making connections, being bilingual, making connections with his students to prevent and understand and help them thrive instead of wallowing in frustration. So I know that our young students come out with tens of thousands of dollars of student loan debt. And I know that you put a proposal before the General Assembly to try and hire more teachers that are not through the teacher certification process, because schools like ours can't get Java teachers, and the students have to essentially teach themselves in some of the most career where there are most jobs, 10 most popular jobs, 7 of them are in computer science. So I want to put a plug in for you allocating and using those challenge stipends. Please reserve the funds now so that we can keep incredible teachers like Mr. Serrano, like all of the young teachers that are connecting with our students and making $46,000 a year on their first things. They could go and be a manager at my brother's Wendy's store and make more money than that, but they're working in our schools and preventing things like the lockdown you had at South River High School. They're preventing, student frustrations and disruptions from boiling over into huge problems. And so you need to do something, and I'm hoping that you will act on those challenge stipends and get that moving. So I'm very sorry that it wasn't a teachable moment for the entire North County system, for the entire Anne Arundel County system that needs to know how we can live together in respect. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to action items. Item 4.01, administrative personnel appointments. We do not have any this evening. Item 4.02, Board of Education 2016-17 meeting, hearing, and workshop dates. Mrs. Nally.
I move that the Board of Education accepts the 2016-2017 meeting, hearing, and workshop dates calendar.
Second.
Is there any board discussion on the dates or any public comment on the dates? All those in favor? Motion passes 9-0-0. Item 4.03, school start and dismissal times, potential options for 2017-18. This is an information item only. We have a presentation.
Good evening. For the record, Alex Shaknovich, Chief Operating Officer, here to bring an information item number 4.03 to your attention regarding potential options for a 2017-2018 school year hour adjustments. Essentially, we'll be covering two different focus areas. The first one focuses or concentrates on a shift of start and dismissal times beginning in the 2017-2018 academic year under a scenario in which the county, our fiscal authority, is to provide $1.4 million that has been requested in the board adopted FY17 operating budget, giving the school system a total of approximately $2 million in total, recognizing the $602,000 that was previously approved as part of the FY16 operating budget towards this initiative. And the second option will focus on a shift in school start and dismissal times beginning again in the 2017-2018 academic year under a scenario in which the Board of Education receives no additional funds, and therefore we have the original $602,000 that was previously allocated again as part of the 16 operating budget towards the initiative. So to begin with, we will review option number one. So under option number one, high schools would begin their academic day at 7:30 a.m. To accomplish that, 13 high schools would move their start times by 13 minutes. All other schools within the county would move their start times by 15 minutes. A total of 10 buses would be required, and in the budgetary cost for that would be $618,000, and that's using the projected costs of buses again in that 2017-2018 academic year. Under that scenario, as you can see from the graphic before you this evening, no high schools would conclude their day after the 4 p.m. hour. However, 4 middle schools would conclude their day after 4 p.m., 2 elementary schools, and 2 other special or alternative schools would conclude their day after 4 p.m. Moving forward to option number two. Option number two, taking again a look at the graphic above, the high schools will begin their academic day at 7:35. Under this scenario, all high schools would move their beginning hour by 15 minutes. All other schools in the county would move 20 minutes universally. Again, only 10 buses would be required at a cost of $618,000. Under this scenario, all of the high schools would conclude their academic day once again before 4 p.m. However, 4 middle schools, 7 elementary schools, and again 2 other special or alternative schools would conclude their day after the 4 o'clock hour. And finally, under option number three has high schools beginning their academic day at 7:30 with some elementary shifts, and I'll elaborate upon that momentarily. So under this scenario, all high schools would shift 13 minutes universally. All other schools, absent the 2 elementary schools that we've made adjustments to, would shift 15 minutes. It would require a total of 22 buses at a total expenditure of $1.4 million. Again, you'll see that the high schools would conclude their day before 4 o'clock. The same 4 middle schools would conclude their day just after 4 p.m. No elementary schools would conclude their day after 4 p.m. and 2 special or alternative schools would conclude their day after 4 p.m. The 2 elementary schools that would be adjusted, just as a point of information, would be Hebron Harmon and Mead Heights Elementary School. And with that, I'd conclude the initial presentation and remain open to any questions the board members might have.
Mrs. Summer.
For these schools that would be shifted, is this a change in the dismissal time for all of these schools, or are some of these currently dismissing at those times, so at the after 4 o'clock schools?
No, it would be a universal shift of all of the schools. So the beginning and the end of the day would shift on a commensurate basis. In terms of the schools in question, Hebron Harmon currently ends at 3:55 this year, so they do not end after 4. And Mead Heights ends at 3:50. So it is that shift that 15 or 20-minute shift that would push them past the 4 o'clock hour.
But don't these middle schools already end after 4?
The middle school, I thought you were asking about the elementary
I'm sorry,
schools.
I meant both,
I apologize. So the middle schools in question of the 4, Magathie River Middle School currently ends at 3:50. Severn River Middle School currently ends at 3:50. Old Mill Middle School North and Old Mill Middle School South also all end today at 3:50. So all 4 of them do not end their academic day after 4 o'clock as we sit today.
And what about the 2 special schools?
And the 2 special schools in question, Mary Moss at J. Albert's Academy in this current year ends her day at 4:10 as we sit at the present time. And Marley Glen Special, the other school, ends their day at 3:55 presently.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So under option 1, when we're talking about 4 middle schools being after 4 o'clock, we're talking about 5 minutes after 4.
Correct.
4:05.
4:05 p.m. Hebron Harmon would dismiss at 4:10. Mead Heights Elementary would dismiss at 4:05. All 4 middle schools would dismiss at 4:05. Mary Moss at J. Alberts would dismiss at 4:25, and Marley Glen Special would dismiss at 4:10 under option 1.
And option 2, the latest dismissal for elementary is Hebron Harmon at 4:15.
Yes, ma'am, that's
Everybody
correct.
else is at 4:05 or 4:10 Mead Heights.
Correct.
And Mary Moss would stay at 4:25 for
No,
option.
no, ma'am, it would be 4:30.
Okay.
And Marley Glen would be 4:15, and the middle schools would be 4:10.
Okay. I don't have any other board questions, but I have 2 public comment cards, Lisa Van Buskirk and Janet Norman.
Good evening, Dr. Arlotto and Board of Education. I am Lisa Van Buskirk of Start School Later. I'm going to talk about a couple things before we address these rather disappointing numbers. First, if you did not hear, the orange ribbon bill for healthy school hours is awaiting the governor's signature into law in the next few weeks. This means that in the 2017-2018 school year, Anne Arundel can seek voluntary recognition at the lowest level of the 3 levels written into the law for its 2014 task force. If AACPS elects to do so, because the bill is voluntary, it can be one of the first counties in the state to receive recognition under the Orange Ribbon Bill. It would join Garrett County, which has the best start times in the state, Montgomery County, and Howard County. The plan proposed might render Anne Arundel eligible for the second tier, which is for those schools who have made some sort of effort. I don't really think 13 minutes is something to be particularly proud of, and maybe go for an award. But that remains to be seen. It's disappointing, of course, because the January proposal that was rejected, as with minor tweaks, it could have allowed Anne Arundel to be the first county in our area not just to improve its start time significantly, better than Montgomery and Fairfax counties, but it could have earned us the full Orange Ribbon recognition. So my question is, in developing those start time scenarios, Claudia has some suggestions that she was able to make just by looking at Excel spreadsheet that was able to do a wee bit better. So what is the status of the transportation software? I know April was the time you're supposed to get it back from the vendor to start using. And so is it going to be used over the summer for the 2016-2017 school year?
So the answer is no, right? So it was never intended to be used to schedule routes for the upcoming school year, right? The idea was, and you and I talked about this, and it was said very publicly when I was out in front of each of the groups at the 3 high schools when we had those public meetings, was that it was going to be running parallel, right?
Okay.
We wanted to make sure that I'm not going to have students standing at the bus stop with buses that aren't, right? So do you remember that conversation we had?
I do.
So it was never intended. So the answer is, yep, we've been working with the vendor. It is the update that I got from Technology Transportation is that we're right on track. The vendor has turned it over to us. So it was, if you remember, operating in their cloud. It's now operating on our equipment. And so we're about 90%, I think, complete getting, last I was told, about 90% complete getting all the routes, the current routes in.
Okay.
We have people now in training. We've hired the analyst.
Okay.
And our folks are now in training with the vendor on how to use the software. And then we're going to play with the software. We're going to operate the software in conjunction with our regular routing routines all through next year.
Okay.
The plan was never to have it standing up on its own until the year after.
Okay. So then will that software be used to refine these start times?
We will certainly take that. Yes, we'll. My assumption is that as we get into next year, we'll take a look at and run routes, and if we can learn something from it and adjust some of these things, sure,
okay.
That would make sense.
So I'm not particularly excited about these start times, but I'll let my colleagues mention that.
My name's Claudia O'Keefe. I'm a parent at the Old Mill District. I've spoken before. Anything is better than 7:17 in the morning. If you want to take it gradually, I know when it moved in the wrong direction, it went 7:45, 7:30, 7:25, 7:17, the wrong direction. Taking steps in the right direction is a step. It's not the final solution, but anything you can do to make things better than they are now, I would appreciate. If that's 13 minutes in 2017 and maybe 15 minutes the year after, I can live with that. It's a minimal disruption to everyone. I don't think there are many parents out there who are going to say, I can't make 13 minutes work or 18 minutes work. I would like to encourage you to pursue whatever you can get. I know I submitted a spreadsheet to the council that showed a 30-minute slide. I know you can do a 30-minute slide. If this is what you're more comfortable with for right now, I'll take what I can get. I'll take what I can get. Right now, it's a 6 a.m. bus for my daughter next year. And if that can slide to 6:15, maybe I can shove some breakfast down her throat before she goes. Honestly, anything you can do to make things better than they are now, I would appreciate. Thank you.
Hi, Janet Norman. I'm curious from the presentation and the numbers that I saw on the screen, the option 3, I believe, was coming in at $1.4 million. So you have $2 million with the 1.4 and the 600,000. What's your $2 million option? Why is that not up on the board? I'd also really like to know what you've done with Claudia's analysis. She took her own personal time and her expertise as a traffic engineer to provide you some very, very well-advised things to consider. And I'd like to know what you've done with those. So if you can explain that to the community, that would be very helpful. I'm urging you to act swiftly, and there is not a reason that you have to delay all the way to the 2017-18 school year. If you can get things done quicker, then you should be doing that, and that's what the community expects you to be doing. The county council has tasked you to do this, and they want to see action. There's no wonder that they're wanting to take over the board. Because they're not seeing the action that they need. I'm feeling like AACPS families are in the traumatic burn unit, having all been torched by this bloody process and presented one option for start time. No matter what opinion you had on this, it was brutal. So now it's time to pull the bandage off and clean the wounds before the delay just leads to infection. It's time to act and not delay for another year. I'm really urging you to do something. We just had the park test. My son took the English 10 test, and so his scores and the rest of our scores, which, you know, we made the excuse last year that it was the first year of park, and so don't count those scores. These scores count, and we're going to be judged against Loudoun County's 9 a.m. fully rested high school students. And this park test was brutal, even for, it was an hour and 50 minutes in one portion and an hour and 30 minutes in the next portion today. And that was the second day. And even for the most dedicated students on principal's honor roll who try to be motivated through their sleep deprivation, it was extremely difficult to achieve that on no sleep and with a muddled brain. So much as we want to delay, I think the community expects us to act. So 30 minutes would be much more preferable to the scenarios you have up here. Thank you.
Mrs. Birch.
I seem to remember that when we did the costs of a 30-minute shift, in order to bring enough schools back to before 4 o'clock, it was going to cost about the whole $8 million that we had been talking about before. So a 30-minute shift would cost us $8 million. Is that correct?
Actually, I think it was a little bit more, but that's
Okay.
right. And we'd have to bring those schools back in closer to 4 o'clock. It would have cost us about that. And actually, I think the number was a little bit larger than that.
Okay. It's not another $1.4 million or another $600,000. It's exponentially larger.
Right, unless you don't want to try and bring those schools back, which I know this board was adamant publicly that they wanted to bring schools as close to 4 o'clock, and that's why there's a parameter in front of you about 4 o'clock.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mrs. Sasso.
Basically, the first meeting that I had here, I supported, school, what you want. But I must tell you that sitting here on the board, it is really not fair for you to stand up there and basically say that we're comfortable right now with what we have, okay? Just look at option number 3. That's if we get that money. So if you really want to scream, go and scream to Steve Shute. Go and scream to the Senate. Get us the $8 million and we can do it. Because we're really sitting here strapped for money. When you really look at our budget, our teachers are our first priority. We must pay them, and you heard the teacher complaining that he's not getting the money. So either we have the students coming to school early, or we have the teachers leaving us. Okay? So please, and I was a newcomer, I support you. Okay? But I must tell you that this board has worked a lot to be able to get to where we are. And I will continue working so that we can move the time. But our money is really strapped. And if you look at our budget too, the money has been taken away from the teachers reserved for their health. Okay? So we are sitting everywhere being just corralled. Give me more. Give me more. Do you want to be taxed more? Yes. Then let's go and say we want more taxes for our school. Help us. It's not that we don't want to give it to you, because we also have children going to school. Most of them have kids in school here. So, yes, it can be done. Get us $8 million, and then we have nothing to complain about. Nothing to complain about, because we know that it costs $8 million. Okay? Thank you very much.
I do want to piggyback on Mrs. Norman's question. For the option 3, that's a total of $1.4 million. If we added our existing $600,000 to that pot, does that allow us to bring our special schools back closer to 4 o'clock?
It doesn't. It is a good question, and the answer is no. There was a fourth option, if you will, that staff was working on, but it was well over $2 million, and that's the reason it was not presented, because the parameters that we had were the $600,000 and the total of $2 million. It would have brought us over, which meant we'd have to ask for more to make it happen. And the reason is the schools that are remaining, it becomes a la carte. So for the special school, for that one special school, there are students that have special buses and aides, and that increases the amount per car. cost, plus the runs, say for J. Albert Adams, it's not a contained run. Those are runs that are spread across the entire county. So that increases the amount of money. So to bring some of those other schools back in and spend more money is what you're asking, closer to $2 million, it would have been over $2 million, and that's the reason it wasn't presented here this evening, because we couldn't find a way to bring some of those schools back in and still keep it at $2 million or under. It was all going to be over $2 million in that last option, or a one option that staff was looking at.
So the most money we need to spend for any of these, it's going to be $1.4 million, and it was going to take us way over the $2 million mark.
Correct.
Can I say one last thing? When I did this spreadsheet with the school bus routes, I learned a few things, and the reason I did it is I was looking for efficiencies in the system. You've got at least 20 buses that only do one run a day. 465 buses, 20 of them only do one run a day. In a tiered system, they could do 3 or 4. If you pick up on those efficiencies, you can consolidate the bus routes and fit them into a narrower time schedule, which was what I was trying to show with my spreadsheet. So without doing that rearranging, yeah, you're just shifting all the schools forward or all the schools back. If you look at it in more detail, you can fit in buses, fit in schools in between. I know that that wasn't the aim of the routing software, that wasn't the aim of what you were doing, but it does save you a few $1 million when you're figuring out bus routes. You've got 50-minute gaps between dropping off for high school and starting to pick up for the next school. If you add up all those gaps and put bus routes in there, you can move the elementary school before 4 o'clock and make it work. So yeah, it can be done, and it can be done with less money. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to go through all the numbers. There are 1,350 bus routes, but it can be done. I just wanted to say that. But if you're comfortable with the 15 minutes for 2016, for 2017, by all means, do whatever you can to get us whatever minutes we can. I would like to see 8:30 high schools. I know it's a pipe dream. I want to get as close to that as I can. 7:45, 8 o'clock would be such a relief. Do what you can do now. I'm happy with that. But I would like to see it, work towards a goal. We're working towards a goal. I know it's not easy.
So I appreciate that you shared your spreadsheets and your work, and it certainly was shared with the team, and they went through it. It's not as easy to say that you've got buses that are idling at certain times, right? Because yes, on paper that's accurate, but in particular, if we have those buses arriving all at the same time, now they're stacked up in the road trying to get into the lot. So they're actually staggered to get into the lots so that we don't have them backed up out the drive and down the road. There's actually reasons sometimes why. So on paper, you're right, it looks like, hey, there is time here, but some of that time's been built in so we can stagger the buses to get them into the lots to then pick up the students and then begin an orderly exit. So we have to think about an orderly entrance, not just always an orderly exit.
I know.
Mrs. Pickard.
Oh, sorry. You're asking me something. All right.
I appreciate all the work that's been done by the staff.
Is your thing on?
It's been a tremendous amount of strain on our central office staff and our transportation folks. I appreciate the look at the schools that would be pushed past 4 o'clock. But I'd like to remind everybody, and then I will end it, that pushing 15 minutes or 18 minutes or 20 minutes does push our elementary starts really late for working families. That means if a school that's currently starting at 9:10, their school day is not going to start till 9:30. So let's be mindful of that, everyone in the room as well. It's not just about the end of the day for working parents.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for crunching numbers and bringing this to us, and I just want to sort of rehash where we go from here. We have asked our county executive and our county council for an additional $1.4 million, and they needed to know how we were going to spend that money. So we have that information now, so they can have that information. And while we await their decision, whether they're going to give us an extra $1.4 million or if we're going to be using the $600,000 that we have, that gives this board some time to look at these schedules more in detail. And once we have the dollar amounts from the county council back, then we know what we're dealing with, and we can make plans for 2017 then. The next item on the agenda is item 4.04, policy revision. This is a third reading. Human Relations Committee Policy Code KBC. Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. I recommend approval of policy KBC, subject to final correction for style and format.
Any board comments? Mrs. Birch?
I just want to say that this is a fairly timely policy.
Is there any public comment on this policy? All those in favor? Motion passes 900. And the next and last policy of the night, 4.05, professional support staff and executive staff benefits, policy GBB. Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. I recommend approval of policy GBB, subject to final correction for style and format.
So moved.
Any board comments? Any public comment? All those in favor? Motion passes 900. Next, we have 3 educational specification information to action items, items 4.06, 7, and 8. I'd like to bundle these, 406, 407, 408, and move them from information to action.
Second.
All those in favor? We now have an action item. Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation, please.
Yes, ma'am. Based on the bundle that you just approved, I am recommending approval of the education specifications for Park, Revere Beach, Shadyside, Marley, Solly, and Brockbridge elementary schools.
Any motion? Mrs. Hummer.
All right, I have a bunch of questions for you. For the 2 schools that we're looking to enclose and put in walls, the HVAC has already been updated for those schools in preparation for walls at some point. So we're not having to redo the HVAC in those. Is that correct?
Correct. It's Larry Alberts, the supervisor.
Oh, sorry.
Construction, and with me.
Mary Patz, design architect.
And yes, we do have the HVAC systems in both schools. They were replaced, and they were replaced in anticipation of a walls project at some date.
Okay, when I looked at the educational specs for those 2, I saw everything for the classrooms. What will be done with the media center in those buildings? That I didn't see that in the education specs. Is that going to be enclosed at this time?
Yes, we typically do have we work with the school on developing it. There are typically 2 classrooms that are built in the back of the media center, and each school is a little different on how they use the media center, whether they have computer labs or resource rooms. So we would work with the school on the right way to enclose those areas in the media center.
When they add the 2 rooms in the back, are those classrooms or the resource rooms that were there? Will it be classrooms?
In the back, there are 2 rooms that are about the size of classrooms, but it could be a combination of 2 classrooms, a classroom and 2 resource rooms, or 4 resource rooms. It just depends on what each of the schools needs.
Okay. Hold on. Read my notes. So when you do, and this goes for all of our additions or things like that, and with the walls, I see that they all get all the electronics and technology and everything we need. Do we get new for those schools, or they use the existing that's there?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
It depends on what the school has as to whether we can reuse that or how old it is. But obviously the new sound systems that go in, document cameras, most of them don't have it. It's usually related to the smart boards. And most of the schools, I think we have been putting in new ones, but it just depends, again, who's bought them and when they bought them.
Okay. And so when you do these new classrooms, every classroom is going to have a sink and a water fountain?
No.
No. Oh, that's in the specs.
Sorry. The ed specs that we have in here are built around our standard ed specs, and in regular classrooms we would have those. We're not going to run water across, tear up the concrete slabs in these schools to put in water. Where there is water, we would leave them in. There's a couple think in each pod there's one area that has a water already there.
Okay. And one more. So when the ed specs for these rooms, the resource rooms that are listed in there, you said that could be the rooms that are added onto the media center. Are there also resource rooms within the pods?
There may be. Again, it goes to when we work out the layouts with the schools.
Okay.
Each school has, again, a certain number of resource rooms. They may need some additional ones. Also, in the case of Shadyside, we're proposing to do a kindergarten addition at that school.
Right.
In which case, that may also change the way we want to do the classroom configurations. So at this point, we don't know. We're just really putting this information together to present to an architect who will come back with a study, a schematic design later this fall.
Okay. And then I did have, so both schools are at the same footprint and have the same square foot, but they have different state-rated capacity. And why is that?
That's how the school is used. So one school may have, because of the way they've configured the classrooms, there may be more classrooms in the building. Others have divided up for resource rooms. In the case of Brockbridge, there's also, if I remember correctly, an ED program, or at one time there was, so the rooms were divided up a little differently. So it's based on how the rooms are actually being used.
So it's not based on, that's for any of our schools, it's not based on square footage, it's how they're
Correct.
utilizing it.
It's how the school's actually utilized, and that's based on the Maryland Department of Planning standards.
So that could change if a school decides to reconfigure how they're using classrooms?
It can, or if we give them extra teachers, and they may move, take a couple resource rooms, move them into a smaller space, combine the two resource rooms and make a classroom. That would increase the state-rated capacity. Or some of the schools have taken science labs and converted them into classrooms. That would also increase it.
Okay, because there's a pretty significant difference between the two schools as to how many students they have. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any public questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion passes 900. Item 4.09 is an information to action item, the Jones Elementary School third-party project playground equipment. Do I have a motion to move this from information to action? So moved. All those in favor? We now have an action item. Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. I recommend approval of the Jones Elementary School third-party project playground equipment. No, you don't. You got to come forward. Come on.
You've waited a long time.
That's right.
Yes.
Sit. I want everybody on camera.
Yeah. Do we have a motion? Okay, now we can introduce everybody.
Again, Larry Albert, Supervisor of Planning, Design, and Construction.
I'm Lori Fisher, the playground chair of the PTA.
Pat Keffer, principal. April Suhar, I'm on the committee.
I'm Chris J. Spears, I'm president of the PTA.
And Eloise Patton, I'm on the committee as well.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about this beautiful playground? I know. I want to go play on it. Mrs. Birch?
I want to thank you for all your hard work in raising this money. Last year was the first time that the county has ever given us money for playgrounds in schools that already exist. So it was a small amount of money. But we've always said that it's a shame that we have to depend on our communities to raise money to redo playgrounds. But that's generally been the situation that we're in. So we want to thank you for all of your hard work for the kids at your school.
Mrs. Birch makes an excellent point, too. We spoke a bit earlier about all the equity sessions we attended at our conference, and this is an equity issue. You have wonderful resources and parents who are involved and able to do this and work on raising this kind of money. We need to be able to provide playgrounds like this at all of our schools. Mrs. Hummer?
Y'all are going to invite us all to come when it's in and you do ribbon cutting, right?
Yeah.
I love to come to playground ribbon cuttings.
Is there any public comment on this item? All those in favor? Motion passes 900. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 4.10, the 2015-16 school year calendar adjustment. Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. I'm recommending approval of adjustments to the 2015-2016 school year calendar as detailed.
I just had a question. The week of June 6 through 10, will that be full days for those kindergartners or 2-hour? If we're bumping back, we're taking off the 13th through 16th as 2-hour early dismissals for the kindergartners.
So for our full-day sites, that will be an all-day program for them. The students
Okay.
who are in half-day programs will still go
They'll
either
still
morning
go.
or afternoon sessions.
So the kindergartners that are going full day will still go full day that last week of school, and they just won't have those 2-hour early dismissal days. I was just concerned about additional childcare needs for families if we made them 2-hour early dismissal days. Mrs. Burge?
So on the discussion sheet, it says the early childhood office is proposing to move the last day of class for full-day kindergarten students. Was that supposed to be full-day pre-kindergarten students from June 16th to June 10th so that it would eliminate the costs for substitute teachers needed
Yes.
for full-day
Yes.
pre-kindergarten?
Yes, that's a mistake,
Okay,
yes.
because that was what was confusing me.
Yes.
We're not changing the kindergarten
apologies.
schedule
You're
at
correct.
all.
Correct.
This is just about pre-K.
Correct.
Okay, so that was okay, good, because
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Any public comment on this item? All those in favor? Motion passes 900. We have a review item 5.01, monthly financial status report. Does the board have any questions or comments? Is there any public comment? And then the next review item is 5.02, the construction status report. Thanks for walking up. Any board questions or comment on construction status? Any public, or Mrs. Nally?
I'm getting extremely excited, as I told you, Mr. Alberts, about West Annapolis. It is looking very gorgeous.
Thank you.
It looks like, the people were working on Sundays. There was always somebody. I go by there. I have coffee right next to, right there, and I'm watching them work on Sundays. So I'm impressed. Thank you.
Mrs. Burge?
So West Annapolis will be done before the next school year, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It'll be completed half a year ahead of time.
Excellent. So my colleague who has a kindergartner starting there in the fall, he will be in the new building.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. By the way, she was impressed with when she went to register him with the setup at Annapolis Middle School for the school. She had been concerned that he would be going there if it wasn't ready, and when she went, she said, "Oh, this is fine. This is lovely." So just wanted to put that out there. So good job for the way you tuck elementary schools into the middle school.
All right, the last agenda item or consent items, 6.01 to 6.02, information to action items. Do I have a motion to bundle these and move them from information to action? All those in favor? Dr. Arletto, your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. I recommend approval and award of contracts for 6.0 and 6.02 as outlined on today's agenda.
Do I have a motion? Is there any public comment on these items? All those in favor? Motion passes 900. I just had a couple of announcements. The next Board of Education meeting is Wednesday, May 4th at 10 a.m. The next Board Policy Committee meeting is Wednesday, May 11th at 1 p.m. And the next Board Budget Committee meeting is Wednesday. No, that's today. And it didn't happen. Okay. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.